Hi, I'm Rose, and this is MndTalk. This interview is part of a Mindwork video interview series where we will discuss all the main topics that define our life in the IT community. I will bring you unique voices to find all the answers to your questions. Today we continue with a story which starts from Hungary, from Eastern Europe, and ends up in a foreign country, in Ireland, with a successful international career. And also we'll discuss the topic of shares and equities in case of the foreign job opportunities. So that's why our guest today is László Paut, a Hungarian product architect who works and lives in Ireland for almost 9 years. So let's see how he took his first steps towards his successful career and also what he learned throughout his life.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for accepting our invitation. I think it would be nice to start with your origin story. So, as far as I know, your story begins in Budapest, and later on you worked in a smaller town in Hungary before you moved to Ireland. So, my question is that what process preceded this move, and why did you end up choosing Ireland?
Yeah, it's a long story. So I grew up in Budapest. I went to school. I went to the university here in Budapest. And I started my first job here as well. I work in IT. When you work in IT, the first language is English.
So it's a must.
It's a must, yes. And in my life, in education, I was in the time when I started the school. If I go back in time, I started the primary school in 1989. It's the time when we changed system. And that was the time when we had Russian teachers, suddenly we had to change so many things at that time. And the school where I went to had no proper English teacher. I learned something that we call English, but it was something different. We just tried to translate words and sentences. And with the time, every time when I went to another school, I always started in the beginner class. So I went to university. I did the language exam. It wasn't easy, but I did my intermediate level, so it was required to get a diploma.
Yeah.
And I started working. But it's always with you that this English is something that you need to improve. And I found a point when I thought that the best way to do it is just to go abroad and learn the language there. Because if you put yourself in this environment, you learn how to use this language in a proper way. So this was one thing that I think drove me at that time to move to a country where the native language is English. There were many other things. So I work in IT. I was always interested in startups. I was also always interested in big systems. So this was the thing that I was very interested. And it's very difficult to learn, I think, from Hungary, because Hungary is small. We didn't have these sort of companies here. For this, maybe you need to go to the US, to the Silicon Valley. You need to find these companies. And at that time in Budapest, there were companies, but I didn't feel that they do what I was looking for at that time. So this was another thing that drove me. And then I was young. I was 28, 29 at that time. I was interested. I was
Open to the world.
exactly just to go and have some adventure.
And how did you start looking for a job from Hungary? And how did you get your first job in Ireland? What's the story?
Yeah, it was. I wouldn't say it was easy at that time. You know, when first of all you have this problem that you feel like you don't speak proper English, and then you go and try to find a job. I quit from the company where I worked. I finished in August, end of August, and I didn't search for jobs before. I needed to have some sort of break, just to relax a little bit, enjoy the time. So I had some time to prepare some sort of portfolio. I had many projects on my laptop that I haven't finished, but I wanted to share. So I think it's a good thing that if you work on something, to share it on GitHub or create a web page. Whatever you did, it doesn't matter if it's just a simple script or it's the project that you haven't finished yet. It's something that I think you be public. So share everything what you do because it it goes with you. So when you go to a company and they get your CV, it's not just the CV. The CV is dry. You worked here, you worked there. I think it's better to see what you actually did. Okay, the first what I want to mention here that first I wanted to go to London. Okay, so
That was
I didn't want to go to Dublin. It wasn't the plan. I wanted to go to a country where people speak English. I didn't want to go too far, so I didn't want to go to the US or Australia.
But you wanted to work with bigger companies.
But I was looking for something first to do the next step. So it wasn't an idea to go immediately and go to Facebook or Google. Okay, I wasn't ready at that time. And then I sent my CV to some companies in London, but we did interviews, and it was very unusual. So when you work for a company after 5 years, a Hungarian company, it's a completely different atmosphere. So when they come from London with their questions, I felt like the business works in a different way there. So what the questions that they asked was more business oriented. Maybe I just went to the wrong company, but they were looking for engineers, software developers. So it wasn't something like a manager position. They like if you use some sort of frameworks that are popular. It's much easier for them to ask questions. They came with questions that was like how your stack build up, how this work, or how you do it in the company. And the problem was that in the company where I worked at that time, we didn't really use frameworks. We built our own tools, own framework. And it's very difficult to talk to someone, especially if you don't speak English very well, that actually your stack is we use this, we use a little library, but they wanted to hear something that you use this framework or that framework. They wanted to understand more. So altogether, after this experience, I was a bit disappointed, and I said, okay, let's find another city where people speak English. Because in Great Britain, you can find other cities. You can go to Manchester, Edinburgh. And another option came up at that time. It was Dublin. So anyway, this is how I found Dublin. And it was how I found my first company. Actually, I just went to Google. I really like a framework. It's Ruby on Rails. I searched for Ruby on Rails job, Dublin, enter, and I found the first few results. I found the email address and I sent emails that here I am. Here's my CV. I'm looking for a job. I can start anytime. Let me know if you are interested. And yeah, an email came back from the first place that, okay, what if we do an interview? Just let's talk. We did this interview. And then a few days later, they came back that, what if you come to Dublin? You work with us for 2 days. They paid the flight, they paid the hotel. And let's see if we can work together. So I went there. we worked 2 days together, and then the director said that, okay, when can you start?
And what kind of company was this?
This was a digital media company, so probably that's why they were first in Google, because they were very good in the search optimization, and they knew how to be the first result. It wasn't the place that I wished for. The project that I worked on in these 2 days was very interesting. This was something that actually I was looking for at that time. So a web application with tests, and it's like a proper web app. And I was very interested. I said, okay, let's do it. And I went back, and in the first, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, I had to work on this app. I was quite happy. And then after 3 weeks, they said we finished this project. So the next is we need to build a website. And I got a design, I got a Photoshop file, and they said that from this design, I need to create an HTML with CSS. So that was the moment when I felt like that, oh, maybe it's not the place that I was looking for. So one day you work on a video player in C++, and
What you enjoy,
and you enjoy, and great team, and you use a Scrum, and on another day you are working for a marketing company building HTML, CSS. So that was a moment that I said, okay, maybe it's not the place where I want to work. But because I just started, I thought that it's a good place to learn.
Yeah, of course. And you had a place in Dublin, so it's a good start.
Exactly.
Okay, but what was the next step after this?
After a year, a recruiter was looking for engineers for Zendesk. Zendesk is a startup that okay, today it's not a startup, but it's a company from San Francisco. And they said that the onboarding is going to be in San Francisco. And the office was just next to my house. I said, no, everything is just perfect. So let's do it. And I remember that it sounded very nice, but I felt very good at SumUp. And because I had this kind of mood, I was so easy. I was like, okay, let's do it. I'm here. If you want to talk to me, we can do it. It went very smooth. And yeah, I got an offer. It was a bit interesting because Zendesk is from the USA, and in the USA things work in a different way. So when you work for a startup, you start working for a company, it's you have shares, okay? So you have this equity. And I didn't have the experience at that time that what's this equity and how does it work? They say that you want to ask or again negotiate the salary, and then they come back with something else that you get this equity that you can use in a year or 4 years. And I didn't understand much. This is the thing that that you have to learn. Then you go to Google again, you try to understand what they are talking about.
You mentioned that you've gotten insight of the world of shares and equity.
Yes.
Okay. So what would you say, what concepts are worth knowing about stocks or equities? What aspects should we consider? What would you say?
If you have a company that provides this option, that they give shares or equity in the company, first of all, it's a sort of risky thing. Okay, when you work with shares, the share price can go up and down. You never know what's going to happen. If you are a sort of person that don't like to risk things, then you have to be a little bit careful. what these companies do usually, it's just they give you a salary, but over the salary you get shares. This is the equity. This is your share in the company. Okay, this is the sort of bonus, and there are different options how they give shares. One option is they use this restricted stock unit. This is that you get, they say that if you, in the next 4 years, we will give you this amount, but you will get the first portion just after a year or 2 years. So this is, you have to stay there for a year to get the first part. And after that, there's another agreement how you get your shares, maybe every month, maybe every quarter, half a year or a year. But this is one way for companies to give shares. And the other is when from your salary, you can say that from the gross salary, you leave some in stocks. So it's the employee stock purchase plan, ESPP. Instead of receiving the salary, some part would go into stocks, and after 6 months, you get these stocks. But you have to wait 6 months to get them.
And how do you see now? Was it a good decision to say yes?
Yeah, first when you are, when first I heard, I wasn't sure. I was interested in stock market, but I knew that stock market is risky. You invest and you have to follow, you have to sell, maybe invest into something else. And here's a company that would give you shares. And I remember at the beginning, I was like, okay, I don't care. Give me the shares and I will sell immediately. But then I found that if the company works, then it's better. If the company can grow, the share price would go higher, and it's much better, I think, that what we can find today as an investment as a bank. If they just pay interest, it's you have to learn this. Some people don't like to risk and they sell immediately. This is one option. But there are so many stories, right? Facebook, Amazon, when they were founded, the people who worked there, and if they didn't sell the shares today, they could earn, I don't know how many millions of dollars. Yeah, it's on you. But I think this is a good thing.
Okay.
So today, if I would change, maybe, I would search for a company with this option.
This option. Okay.
Yes.
What would you advise for those IT professionals who would like to move abroad for a job opportunity?
So I think today it's much easier. So when I moved to Dublin, it was easy to me as well because we had the technology. I could do a Skype interview. I didn't need to travel to Dublin, do the interview, then come home, and then to go back again. So it's not difficult, but moving is a difficult part. So when you decide to leave your country, I was in a situation when I lived with my parents at that time. So to me, it was easy. I just grabbed my luggage, I put my clothes in, and I bought the ticket, and I went to Dublin. If you have a house, if you have an apartment, it's a big deal, right? Should I sell the house? What should I do? So this way is a bit difficult. If you go in this way, I wouldn't say that it's very difficult, but it's out of your comfort zone, right? So you don't know what's going to happen there. So when I went there, I lived 2 days or 3 days in a hotel. Then I found an apartment house where I could stay for 2 months. The thing is that if you move to another country, you have to do certain things. You need to open a bank account. To open a bank account, you need the tax registration number. For the tax registration number, you need a place to live because they want to send you a letter. You can't use a hotel address. So I had to find a place where I could spend 2 months. But this was my way. Okay, there's another way when you find a company that offers relocation, and with that it's much easier.
And where do you see yourself in the future? Are you planning to move back to Hungary, or what's the plan?
It's a very good question. At the moment, I feel very good in Dublin. As I mentioned, this startup atmosphere is very strong in Dublin. Ireland is a sort of gateway between the USA and Europe. There are companies there, Facebook, Amazon, Google, and many startup companies. And I like this atmosphere. And the second reason is that I got married in Dublin, but I met with my wife in Dublin, and my wife is from Italy. And that's why it's a bit difficult that if I want to move home, where is the home? The home is in Italy or in Hungary. I would like to have a sort of life when I have a house in Dublin, a
Here and
house
there,
in
and
Budapest, and a house in Italy.
Thank you for sharing with us your experiences, and I wish you the best in Hungary for this short time.
Thank you very much.
And dear mind workers, thank you for joining us for this time, and see you the next time.